Thank you, Rob. Okay, welcome to this October meeting of Budget, Capital, and Personnel. I'm sorry we started a little late. We had a little trouble getting quorum in the room, but we're all here now. We've got Rich, John, Mike Lane, and myself here in the legislature chambers, and Amanda Champion on Zoom. Lee Shurtleff has asked to be excused. So first order of business, minutes approval. Can I get a motion? Thank you, Rich. Second by Mike. Does anybody have any comments? Okay, let's vote. I guess we have to do this by roll call. Amanda Champion?
Yes.
Rich John?
Yes.
Mike Lane?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. That's unanimous. Okay, I don't think we have any changes to the agenda other than that there is a revised resolution D on your desks. Amanda, I guess you can't see it. And then it does not appear that we have members of the public here. Frank, did you want to introduce your new employee since you're here? You can take this opportunity. Frank Daldo's here, our transportation planner.
Hi, everyone. Except for Mr. John, she went around and we introduced everybody, but this is Catherine Wild. I'm ecstatic that she's here, day 3. So means she likes us, and she came back for day 3. She comes to us from Cortland County, where she was a mobility manager and also worked for Seven Valleys there, and really worked on getting people access for transportation. So we're excited for her to be here. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.
Welcome. Catherine reminded me that she also used to be a reporter for the Cortland Standard.
Awesome. So we have a literate transportation planner. Yeah, great. Thank
She
you.
was a good one, too.
No, I'm not saying that you're not literate. It's just always good to have a backup. Welcome, Catherine. Okay, County Administrator Lisa Holmes, you have a report?
Just a few remarks I wanted to make. First of all, I wanted to thank you all, and the Expanded Budget Committee, for a very thoughtful and deliberation on the tentative budget that was put forth last night. I think that hard questions were asked and deliberated, and I think it was a positive, a necessary and positive and transparent process. So I just wanted to state my appreciation for that. And also I'm also appreciative of the way we in Tompkins County go about discussing with transparency, the tax levy and the percentage increases as opposed to the tax rate, because I'm seeing and many of my colleagues across the state tout their low tax rates in their part of their budget process. And I went back and looked at our tax rate, and if we were to put it in that way, and we could also tout that the tentative tax rate that was adopted at last night's meeting is 5.32%, which is the lowest it's been since 2010. So, but that's not, it's one measure of what we do, but it's a very difficult and somewhat misleading indicator for the public. So I just wanted to state that our looking at the tax levy as a measure, I think, is a very transparent way to go about our business. So the other thing that I would mention is that the departments who had positions that were removed for the soft hiring freeze are appreciative of including my own, for those that will be are back to be funded and have been given instruction to wait until the passage of the the final passage of the budget before going about the hiring process for those positions. So those are my updates.
Any questions for Lisa? Rich?
I would echo that I thought we had a very deliberate budget process, and Deborah, thank you for your work in running meeting after meeting on those, and for the behind-the-scenes work you guys do. One observation I have is that what we're trying to do in some measure is to have consistency and predictability for the taxpayer. And with the rapid change in assessments, I've heard from a lot of constituents that's not happening, that they're seeing huge swings in what they're actually paying because of assessments. And I'm wondering if we should be thinking about, should there be a phase-in, say when an assessment changes, should the homeowner or the business owner, the property owner know that here's where the new assessment is going, but it's going to phase in, say, over 3 years, for example, so they don't get hit all at once, because I'm afraid what we've seen is a real estate bubble, and we saw gigantic increases, and must be in some parts of the county we're not seeing those assessment increases because it's not a rising tide where all properties go up equally, where you wouldn't really see the impact on taxes. Some properties are going up dramatically and getting hit with very large tax increases. I assume there's some other properties where they're really going down. And I don't know, maybe we should be thinking about that.
Do they ever go down? I mean, that's a serious question.
Some people's taxes
Do they
go
ever
down. Hypothetically, I assume they must, because they're going up so much on some properties.
Amanda, has that question ever come up in GO where Jay could answer it?
Well, I mean, don't quote me on this, but my vague recollection is that he has said that, you know, by and large, they do go up, but there are some that go down.
Okay.
But that's a very small percentage, I think. I think in general, they go up, mostly.
Yeah, I'm curious. I don't know how much of a bubble this is. I don't know what you experienced. I don't know what you experienced in the lead up to 2008, because that's the last real.
People haven't given me actual numbers on their properties, but say my school tax on my house has gone up, I think over $1,000 a year in actual dollars, and I'm not alone.
No, I'm sure, if you live in the city, I'm sure you're not. It'll be interesting to see if this new MOU with Cordell and the increase in what they're paying will have any impact whatsoever on city taxpayers.
Yes, it would be interesting.
You can keep us posted. I will say, though, the thing about phasing it in, as I understand it, our rule is 100% assessments. So I think unless we change that, we can't phase that in, can we? Mike, you might know that.
I think we have to follow state law, and I don't think that we have that flexibility. But Jay would be the person to ask that question of.
Well, Rich, you're NGO, so we'll trust you to bring that up at your next meeting and report back to us.
Amanda is here with us, and I don't know if you think that's an appropriate topic for us to sound out Jay about.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jay has always been happy to come and chat with us and try to explain it to us. And as I've said before, every time he talks to us, I learn something new. So I would be happy to invite him to, you know, talk with us.
All things assessment. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Mike?
The other thing I wanted to say is thank you, Lisa, for mentioning that we talk about the levy. It wasn't until I came on the legislature many years ago that I learned about the levy. After being in village government for years, we only talked about the tax rate, and that's what a lot of local governments still do. And it's not a true judge of what the taxing situation is, because the levy tells us how much money you're raising from the tax base, and how, if the levy goes up, you're raising that much more than last year. I also wanted to say to Norma, you sent out an email this morning apologizing for taking a while to change that stuff. You didn't need to apologize. It was a long meeting. It was late. I was having trouble because I was really riveted listening to those people last night. I really was, but I was having trouble concentrating on even getting my F&I report out. So, no, you were fine.
Okay. I'll withhold my remarks till committee chair report, but I want to echo everybody's thanks to Lisa and Norma and Lori. It's been a tougher than usual budget season. Lori, you've been baptized by fire. And we appreciate the fact that you're still here. Okay. Director of Finance report. Lori Scarrett.
Thank you. I have a couple updates. We began the foreclosure process October 2nd with 68 parcels, and as of this morning, we are down to 63 parcels. Also this morning, I received the sales tax information for the quarter, and just a really quick overview. I haven't put all the numbers together yet, but it looks like the third quarter's up 2.5% over last year. And we'll be processing those payments this week, so it'll go out on October 31st, Tuesday, October 31st. And 2022 is not over yet. We still have the airport audit that we will be starting on next week. So
It's the never-ending audit season.
I was like, 2022 just doesn't end. But
What does 2.5% mean in dollars on the sales tax?
I don't have that with me. I
Okay.
don't know. Sorry.
It's a good number,
I'm
right?
trying to
It's
think
more
if I
than we
have it.
got last year.
Yeah, the retail sales report came out yesterday or the day before, and the market was all wee-weed up for about 5 minutes because for the last 2 months, the retail sales have gone up beyond what people expect. And I have to think, having done the research on what I presented last night, that people have to be buying stuff on credit because cash is pretty much tapped out. Mike?
Who was it told us that credit card debt is now over $1 trillion?
I said that last night.
That was you, okay, so you
And
know.
it's at its highest ever since the Fed started tracking it in 1990.
So I think that's your answer. They're putting it on credit.
Yeah. But sooner or later, you have to pay the piper. And I don't know what's going to happen when the piper comes to the door. We'll see. It's one of the reasons I worry about our sales tax next year. So anyhow, anything else, Lori?
No, so I'm sorry, I'll get you that number later. Okay.
Yeah, you can, I mean, obviously, you can just give us that report at our first November.
Okay, sure.
I think people
That would be
are
fine. I don't
sick
need
of
to.
of hearing about money
Okay.
at the moment.
All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank
But I'd like to
you.
hear good news, so yes.
Yeah.
November meeting would be great.
Okay. My favorite HR commissioner.
For my favorite legislator.
It's a love fest.
Oh, you're
a
hurt
love
feelings.
Hey,
Wait a minute, Deborah's your favorite?
Was set up for that.
Yes, she is, without apology, yes, Deborah is my favorite.
Never apologize.
Never. Okay, I'd just like to give you a few brief updates from HR. I'll start with civil service. As you know, in June of this year, our county was approved 4 titles for the HELP program, which allowed us to classify titles that met the criteria as non-competitive, which means the provisional person did not have to take an exam. To date, we have placed 11 people in titles on a permanent basis because they're in titles that the HELP program is helping us with. And those are titles that are recruitment difficulty, that met the promotional quals and all. There are 4 different criteria. So we had licensed clinical therapists, environmental health specialists, emergency services dispatcher trainees, and caseworkers. If you are appointed within this 12-month period on a provisional basis to either of those titles, we can give you non-competitive status, permanent status, without having to take the exam. So the program is working. The state civil service also allowed us to, for people who have been in provisional status for 3 or more years without a test being called, we can now make them permanent without a test. So we have submitted a couple of titles for approval for that. So we are making some progress in the area of civil service.
That's great.
Our civil service staff, we have conducted 2 lunch and learns in the municipalities where 20 out of 26 municipalities have participated. We did an individual lunch and learn in Groton. We had one scheduled for the library, Tompkins County Library, but it was postponed and we're rescheduling. So we're taking the staff to the municipalities, answering their questions and trying to help them with the process. We've held one session at the whole health department where we talked about civil services, we talked about recruitment, we answered any questions that they have in relation to civil service or HR. So we're getting the staff out among our clients that we serve. So, and there's one more civil service update. We can now credit provisional service toward an employee's probationary period. So if I'm provisional for a year before my test is called and I'm appointed from that list, that year now counts as my probationary period, and I may not have to serve a probationary period. I can become permanent at that point. So step by step, we're making progress.
I'm curious, why did they ever have a rule otherwise, that you could be in provisional status, but it wouldn't count towards your probation?
Well, I don't know. That's just the way it's always been, but thankfully, the always been is now changing based upon the needs of the municipalities and counties.
Which is probably a reflection of all the difficulties we're having
Right.
hiring just across the board. Mike?
Correct.
I didn't follow all of your changes at the very beginning there. Would any of that affect our library director position?
No, that's a T&E, that's a training and experience. And really, training and experience is based upon the person. It's like reading a resume. And you put in your experience into the electronic system, and it rates you based upon your experience. And instead of taking a multiple choice exam, that's what it is. We have the pilot corrections officer as a T&E now, which has helped us tremendously because we don't have to wait for one time during the year to actually offer an exam. So no, library director, I'm sorry, is still a T&E.
Well, of course, the problem, as we've talked about before, is that some applicants are just, if they know it's a civil service position, they don't want to take it. They don't want to apply.
And one thing we've been telling the departments and the municipalities is that we have to explain what these things mean. It may be a civil service position, but there's not a civil service exam. T&E is really a rating of your training and experience. And it's what you put in that system that gives you the rating. So if I've worked 3 jobs and I only put 1 in there, my rating is going to be a little lower than someone who's put all of the experience in there. So it's really a rating of training and experience. It's like we're doing application review, but in an electronic format.
And historically, when I worked for the federal government, they used to provide training to people. Like when we would downsize, they would provide training on how to fill out your federal applications because there's an art to it as to how you present your job experience and what you actually did in those jobs, and that goes into your rating. And now that it's done, I guess, by computer, it's even more important how you put the information in.
So that's from a civil service perspective. Just to give you a little bit from the recruitment area, we currently have 23 job postings, some are multiple openings. We have 37 positions that are posted for our partners or our other municipalities and towns. We're under, the search for the county attorney is underway. We're reviewing the candidates. We're also, the search for the deputy for recycling materials management is underway. Just as a point of information, because this was brought up as far as Ithaca was concerned, we had a total of 122 applications for our deputy sheriff exam. 96 of that 122 were approved, which meant they met the qualifications. Only 56 people actually took the exam. And so we're waiting now for those scores. So the number was higher than a lot of municipalities as far as total applications, but by the time we get to the actual list, and then the other steps that they have to take as far as the physical agility test, the polygraph and all of that, that number dwindles rather quickly.
How many positions do we have, though? Not that many.
Not that many. I think they're pretty good. They've met the minimum manning and they're pretty good for right now.
Okay.
So, and I think
Question.
that's.
Go ahead, Rich.
I'm just curious if you know across the state whether that's the trend. Are there more people trying to apply for law enforcement jobs?
Less. There were some municipalities with 40 applications, some had in the teens. I was really happy with that 122 until I saw actually how many actually showed up to take the exam. And for the most part, many people are following. We've had no exam fees for any exams for years. This year, several municipalities tried to do the same thing. So it's not a matter of the exam fees. I think it's the field law enforcement right now.
You happen to know how the city of Ithaca has been doing with its?
I did have some information from Shelley, but it wasn't final. So I'll have to look back through the emails, and they had a couple of hundred applicants as well, but I don't know how many actually tested.
They just reached a contract, I believe, where they've substantially increased salaries.
Right.
Sure how they afford all that, but,
I think it's because your tax bill went up $1,000.
well, let's go back, rewind the tape. But I'm curious whether it'll really help them. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
It would be good for us if it did.
It really would. So, and then just a few other numbers. To date, we have onboarded 203 new staff. Some of that's from the Board of Elections. We have off-boarded 44 due to turnover, retirements, and terminations. Employee demographics, I'm not sure if you want that now or...
Are people interested? I mean, sure. I mean, we have a fairly light agenda,
Yeah.
so if...
I'll do a really quick run-through. Hispanic or Latino, 20. White, 670. Black or African American, 33. Native Hawaiian or Pacific Islander, 0. Asian, 14. American Indian or Alaska Native, 2. 2 or more races, 22. 1 unknown. And again, these numbers are based upon their self-identification, and some do not identify. This is from our new system where I can actually get some numbers that match.
So that's our total staff. And,
Right now.
And is there some way to look at that as against the demographics of our community?
Yes,
And
we can
how
take
do-
that another step.
Yeah, if we've done that.
We have
how
not
does-
done that.
okay.
I just got this off the press today,
Okay, thanks.
so we can do that going forward. But it's something a couple of legislators have asked for previously.
Excuse me.
And that's all I have.
Yeah, I'm curious, is this something that we might be able to develop a monthly report on? It would be
Yes.
interesting to me to see what our vacancy rate is and just,
Yes, in fact, that's why I'm doing it. Larry Workman, from now on, I've asked him to prepare a report for BCP with our numbers, as well as any national or state trends that may be impacting us.
thanks.
Okay, any more questions for Ruby? Thank you, Ruby. Okay, committee chair report. So Veronica, I saw Veronica is here. Veronica, did you have a report from WDIC?
Just a brief one. We haven't met since the last BCP, but we are meeting a week from today, Wednesday, October 25th at 3 p.m. The agenda is going out tomorrow. I think perhaps the highlight is Chris Spahn is going to come and talk about their the disability resource work in his office, which, or in and around it, which I can never remember the names of the workforce things, so I'll let someone else take that. We're also going to be, updating on some ongoing initiatives and having just a general discussion about land acknowledgements. Not intending to vote on anything. Oh, and we're welcoming a new member. So we will have all seats filled for the first time, which is exciting.
Who's our new member?
Nicholas, I don't remember his last name. He's a public health fellow with the health department.
That'll be good. Thank you. Any questions for Veronica?
So another staff member, which is good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so my report. Yeah, I want to thank everyone for their support during the expanded budget committee process. And obviously, again, thank you to our staff. I personally believe we should be paying as we go, which is why I always fight this temptation to use fund balance or adjust our sales tax predictions or projections to allow us to not raise the tax levy even as we increase our expenses. It just seems like we're pulling something on the taxpayer if we don't acknowledge what it's costing us to provide these services. I'm probably in a very small minority feeling this way, but it just seems to me that I see so many people with a sense of entitlement to services without realizing that those services cost somebody something. And occasionally, as we're forced to provide more and more services, thanks to the state of New York and the needs of our residents, we have to have that reflected in our tax levy. I just don't think there's any way around it. Otherwise, people neither appreciate nor understand the cost of providing the services they've become accustomed to receiving. And I think now, with what's happening in our economy generally, and with the state's presumed intention, based on past experience, to pass the costs down to us as the counties, it's more important than ever that our budgets reflect the costs of what we're providing. Incidentally, I was going to say this last night, but we ran out of time. I went on the comptroller's website where he's talking about this looming gap of $36 billion that the state is facing over the next 2 or 3 fiscal years. So he reports that the reasons for the deteriorating fiscal outlook include declines in revenue from a weaker economic forecast, stock market volatility, and increases in recurring spending. His prescription for dealing with this is, quote, a proactive approach by state leaders to align recurring revenues with recurring spendings so that we remain economically competitive and we don't have to cut critical programs. Just stick county leaders in there for state leaders. This is what we should be doing. The other thing he said was that large budget gaps underscore the importance of building up rainy day reserves and enhancing criteria for their use, which is something this committee has worked on all year. And we'll do another piece of it today. And I just fervently hope that we'll stay on this path and that it won't get undone next year, because we seem to have colleagues who can't look at fund balance without it burning a hole in their pocket. And I'll stop there. One thing I just want to confirm, we're having a special BCP meeting on November 2nd at noon. The reason for this is that we want to pass a final budget resolution after our public hearing so that we can get it on the first legislative agenda for November, so that all those positions for which we restored funding in the budget can be posted ASAP, because there are positions that we desperately need to fill as quickly as possible. So you can look forward to a very busy November and December. Normal. All right. Okay, let's move on to our resolutions. Oh, sorry. Mike?
Just a couple things. One, I liked what you said just now, but also we need to be cautious because this budget, tentative budget, can still be amended.
I know.
And believe it or not, the reason we have a public hearing is we might hear something from the public that we didn't think about. Or the state may drop an October surprise on us that we weren't planning. That's happened before, too. Hopefully, none of that will happen, and that the public will be happy with our budget. But we might, it's never over till it's over, as Yogi Berra used to say. And
I'm sure that we are not going to get members of the public coming in here saying, ooh, I love it when you raise my taxes. It's a given that they're not going to like it when we raise their taxes. But I think we as legislators need to remember that we know what our expenses, what our capital plans are, what the threats are from Albany. We have the big picture, and we have a responsibility to take all of that into account, even when our taxpayers say, no, I don't want to pay an extra $3 a month. I pay taxes too. I don't like having to pay more taxes, but my feeling during the 3 years that I've chaired this committee is when I leave the legislature, I want to leave this county in as good a fiscal condition as I found it when I first started 6 years ago, thanks to all the work that our predecessors have done, all the taxes that taxpayers have paid in over the years. I mean, we have an obligation to those taxpayers to not just spend like drunken sailors. We have an obligation to our current taxpayers, who will likely be future taxpayers, that we don't make fiscal decisions that are going to subject them to a huge tax increase 3 years down the road. I mean, when I look at our budgets, I take all of that into account. Just my thoughts. Rich?
Yeah, just some housekeeping. I will not be available at noon on the 2nd because I'll be teaching. I finished teaching at 12:40. Okay. So I could get down the hill after that if you needed quorum, but
We'll be done.
well, I hope so, but
I hope so too.
But if you don't have quorum, I can get there after I finish.
I think Mike, Amanda, and myself.
I'm a little concerned. We have Geo at 9, and then they've scheduled this whole afternoon, which I don't know whether I'm going to be able to come to or not. But I can't spend the whole day down here. Any way we could, say, move this special meeting to 11:15, let's say, instead of noon?
Well, Katrina can explain. I think the problem is that there is some time where Rob and the clerks have to shift the setup from one meeting to another, and I don't think 15 minutes is enough, but I'll let Katrina answer that.
Deborah pretty much said it.
How much time do you need?
Rob, would 30 minutes be good? We could do 11:30.
That would help.
Okay, if that helps you. We're all about being helpful, Mike.
I start teaching at 11:15, so
Well, you're out of it.
I am not helpful at all.
Amanda, does 11:30 help you?
I'm just going to be sleeping down there that day, so I'll be there no matter what.
Okay. So let's move it to 11:30, and we'll know that at least 3 of us can be here at 11:30.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob.
And I had a couple other comments or observations on, I think your quote was from the comptroller. Is that right?
Yes.
I don't think state leaders will listen one bit to the comptroller on that they should match or align their spending with income.
Much like some of our colleagues don't listen to our staff.
Yeah, and I won't repeat what I said last evening, but I really think we're going to see this again next year, that if they have such a big hole, they're coming for the counties. They're going to be asking for more money yet again. And so what they did this year is, I think, an introduction to a new trend. Well, not a new trend, but an advanced trend. And then I just would mention, I'm looking at the document that I think Norma helped prepare with all of our fund balance usage this year. And it's sort of a corollary to what you were saying, which I agree with, that we shouldn't just be spending our fund balance to
Spend our fund balance.
spend our fund balance, and we applied $9 million to the center of government. One corollary to that is that people who use a resource should pay for it. And in doing that, we really have taken old people's tax money from prior years, and we're applying it to the benefit of future taxpayers. So they won't be paying that $9 million. And I think we have to be careful in that direction too. In this instance, I think it made sense, and if you look at what we were trying to do with getting a consistent capital spend, it's really useful to do this. But we should be cognizant of it in that direction as well, that those who benefit should pay. And to the extent of that $9 million, they're not.
But they would pay through tax levy and bond payments and.
Right, but that $9 million came from people who paid taxes in prior years. They may still be here when we have the center of government building up and running and get use out of it, but they might not. They're not the same taxpayers necessarily. Not much we can do about it, and it's just, we should be trying to align. If you're getting the benefit, you should be paying. Yeah.
That's a classic argument. And it's always pay cash, let's get it, and not have to pay the borrowing charges, or other people get to use it, so let's pay the borrowing charges.
Yeah, and
I've heard it debated
over and over again, and
Exactly.
certainly.
If we consistently paid as we go, I don't think we'd have this problem, but that's just my thought.
Yeah,
and one, isn't it $7 million for the center of government and $2 million for the public safety building? Wasn't that of the $9 million? Yeah.
okay. Yeah, and I love paying cash and not having interest and worrying about where's the money going to come from in future years, but you are skewing it so that some people are paying and others are getting. I mean, there is an advantage to bonding, to have a responsible bonding program.
Isn't the entire basis of government that some people pay and they're not necessarily the people that get? I mean, I think we're getting kind of in the philosophical
We are getting philosophical
BS,
here.
but
We're waxing philosophical. But, I mean, to some extent, yes, that government is about transfer of wealth. On the other hand, it's also about service provision and who pays. If you're getting the service, pay for it. I don't know. I interrupted Norma.
Oh, no, I just wanted to correct. So the $9 million was set aside years before, a couple of years at least, before I started with the county for the Center of Government building.
Well, it was earmarked.
It was earmarked.
It was not actually set aside.
Exactly. So that was where I was going. But presently, there is no set aside in cash for the public safety building. And so when we consider how we want to manage those two projects, you might want to seriously consider putting funds in both of those reserves to to be able to move those projects ahead.
And I think the plan, the capital plan envisions putting that money towards the public safety building next year.
And certainly if Randy Brown is correct that we're going to be rained on with fund balance money at the end of this year, maybe that's something we should look at. Contradicting what I just said about pay, the future pays, but.
Well, if it's raining money, all bets are off, right?
We're going to see such a high number, I think, for that public safety building that it will shock us.
But even to get started with, even to get started with that, you have to have some cash to get, just to get the plan together. That's not going to be an inexpensive plan. So planning for that expense would be good to do now rather than even waiting for the influx of fund balance that we're going to get at the end of the year. It just might be not a bad idea to start thinking about putting that away.
I guess in my head, I thought there was a slide that we saw.
There was yeah. So there was
7 and 2.
I was looking for any kind of ability to put some money aside for those buildings and actually truly put them in a reserve. So when I've prepared that slide, that was where my head was at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Shall we move on to our resolutions? Resolution A, service agreement for Gadabout for 2021, ID 11918. Can I get a motion on that? Thank you, Rich. Second. Yes, I just need a second.
Sure.
Amanda, thank you. Okay, Frank, I'm going to let you or Catherine speak to this resolution.
Well, it's day 3 for Catherine, so she's not up to speed on that. It's just playing catch up. That's what I'm trying to do here, play catch up. I need the paperwork, contract signed that was never executed so that I can draw down the funds.
This is for 2021?
Correct. There was no contract issued, even though the service was provided in 2021. There was a contract issued and executed in 2022, and 2023's budget contract has been signed. So yeah.
You just missed a year.
Missed a year, yes.
Oh, oops. So there's no problem with the state or the federal government if we post, okay.
No, because we have 5 years to collect on grants, and the FTA has been very gracious with us. We have older grants, and they're still allowing us to draw down the money.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Frank?
I think we passed this in F&I already.
Okay, great. Ready to vote? Oh, wait, Rich?
I'm just curious, have we figured out a process or system so that for 24, we get a contract signed?
So you just approved you're going to be approving the 2024 budget, so I have to wait for that. Once that's approved, hopefully I will have the contracts issued prior to the end of 2023, so that in 2024 everything will go. That's the plan.
Thank you.
I think the office is functioning much more efficiently lately than it has at times in the past. So, ready to vote? Amanda?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you. Catherine, it was great to meet you. I hope you still like it next week.
Day 4.
Okay, Resolution B, appropriation from Contingent Fund, Terminal Pay, County Attorney's Office, ID 11931. Rich moves, Mike seconds. Let's see, who's going to speak to this one? This is pretty standard stuff, right?
Yes, this is just
Terminal pay.
terminal pay for the county attorney.
Okay,
Came through GO as well. Yes. Okay.
okay. So, ready to vote? Amanda?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike? And I'm a yes. That's unanimous. We have another budget adjustment, Resolution C, terminal pay, Tompkins County Office for the Aging, ID 11948. Can I get a motion? Rich. Amanda seconds, thank you. This is another standard terminal pay one, right? Okay, ready to,
And it also went through GEO.
okay, thank you.
Or, wait, no, this one went through
Health and Human
HHS.
Service, yeah. Okay, Amanda,
Yes.
Rich,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. That's unanimous, thank you. Okay, resolution for additional American Rescue Plan funding to cover 2022 OTR for Highway Machinery Department OTR number 15, snow and ice tandem truck, ID 11980. Can I get a motion? This, by the way, Lori just reminded me, thank you. We will be passing the revised version that you found on your desk.
Yeah, and Taylor sent it to me, so I have it.
Oh, great, good. Any questions or issues on this? Yeah, I guess we do need that. Thank you, Rich moves. Can I get a second? Mike seconds, thank you. So this was just, the revision was just to correct the amount? The account numbers. And the account numbers, okay. Any questions? Amanda?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
You? Okay. Resolution E, approval of the 2023 and future amendments to the Municipal Cooperative Agreement for the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium, ID 11958. Can I get a motion? Amanda? Mike seconds. Okay, this one we might want to talk about.
I can speak to it on the Health Consortium Board. So every year, there is a Department of Financial Services audit, and this year, the DFS has asked for every municipality that already passed the MCA, the Municipal Cooperative Agreement, to go back and remove the town of Onondaga from their member listing because the town of Onondaga was approved for membership but never enrolled in the plan. So you've seen this before, you've approved it, but now this MCA has now reflects that membership, and it also reflects some changes to the Health Consortium's new financial manager position. So it's, just some of those details.
So it's basically a technical amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
I was looking for red lines. Are there any markups in this, or is it just,
I don't believe so.
okay?
It's my understanding that there's going to be a pretty substantial percentage increase in the premiums for this plan.
Last year, I believe it was 7%, and this year's 8%.
And we're cheap.
Yes, many others are
They're
12 or
talking
higher.
like 24% for, standard health insurance out there.
Oh, dear God. I should have known that last night. Okay. All right, any other questions? Ready to vote? Amanda?
Yes.
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. That's unanimous, thank you. And now we got to a piece.
Can I just say, I think it's interesting to see the list here of all the municipalities that are involved in the consortium.
It's pretty impressive. I mean, whoever thought this up and tended it and grew it did a great job. So whoever they are, thank you. All right, final resolution, F, to establish and fund a debt reserve fund, ID 11983. Can I get a motion? Rich? Amanda seconds, thank you. This is the formal resolution that will implement what we agreed to in the expanded budget committee to fund the debt reserve, to establish and fund a debt reserve in the amount of $5,720,000, where did, 503. Oh, last page, thank you. This is the fund that enabled us to start our budget deliberations at a tax levy of minus 0.4%, thanks to the genius of Norma and Lisa. Any questions? Amanda?
Yes.
Rich?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. So that's unanimous. Is there anything else we want to discuss? Anything we need to discuss, or are we like sick of each other after expanded budget? Oh, okay.
I just read today that it's costing the New York State taxpayers $20 million for the attorneys for former Governor Cuomo. And I thought to myself, my little village, and I know Groton, they've been working for 2 years to try to get a grant for $2.5 million to fix up Main Street.
I think we'll just leave that sit.
Leave it at that.
All right, we're adjourned, everyone. Thank you very much. Amanda, I hope you feel better.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.